Hello and welcome back to CEO.CA's coverage live from the Precious Metals Summit in Beaver Creek. I'm excited to be joined by Michael Hudson, Managing Director of Southern Cross Gold, who's fresh off the plane from Australia and pretty happy to be talking with us.
Amazingly fresh. Thanks for having me, James.
How are you finding the conference so far?
Well, this is the best conference in the world, without a doubt. The best funds, the best corporates, the best juniors, all locked together, and we can't but help talk and make business happen.
Absolutely, and I imagine mood in the camp maybe a little better than previous years with gold trading at an all-time high. Let's talk Southern Cross. Give us the elevator pitch here. What's the company history there? What should investors know?
Yeah, Southern Cross is exploring in a project called Sunday Creek, which is in the Victorian goldfields of Australia. We're in the shadow of the head frame of a mine called Fosterville, which is still the second highest grade gold mine on Earth and was the highest grade gold mine over the last 7 years. So we got some very good analogues to when we went into Victoria 2 years ago to look for. Yeah, and we've been very successful. We found another one of these systems. We put 60 kilometres into it. It's heading towards 3 million ounces at 10 grams is our aim. It's amazingly high grade. We've got lots of drill rigs there. We're giving it our best bash, and it's one of the better gold discoveries globally today.
Okay, fantastic. We'll talk a bit more about those drill rigs on site, but maybe if you can wind back the clock a bit for us, tell us, how did you discover and acquire this asset?
Everything looks like an overnight success, but I own many assets in Victoria 20 plus years ago. Trying to tell a Fosterville story, actually Mark II back then, but Fosterville wasn't the supersonic mine that it became in the last 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
So I literally failed, but I knew the geology. And so I actually bought back into the projects that I owned many years ago. Fosterville became the supersonic project that it did. We put them into a Canadian company and then spun them out of that a couple of years ago onto the ASX.
Okay, very interesting. So 5 drill rigs turning at the moment at the project Sunday Creek. Tell us, what are you trying to get out of this drill program? What are the timelines? What kind of grades are we seeing?
Yeah, so over the last 2 and a bit years, we put about 60 kilometres into the project. We're going to put 60 kilometres between now and the next year. So we're really ramping up that drilling. We've got a great discovery, and we're really giving it the best shot. You need, in any discovery, you need the money. We've got the money, you need the permits. We've got the permits. We own the freehold land over the project, 320 acres. And we've got the drill rigs turning, and that's the secret recipe. Our aim is we put out an exploration target back in January that was 1 to 1.6 million ounces at between 7.2 to 9.7 grams per tonne gold equivalent. The equivalent comes from 20% antimony. This will be one of the larger antimony projects in the Western world, but it is 80% gold. Our aim over the next year is that 60 kilometres is going to get us to that 3 million ounces at 10 grams exploration target.
Okay, fantastic. I mean, 60 kilometres, that's a serious drill program you got going on the way there. I guess I want to talk maybe a little bit about your experience in the industry. Who else is on the team at Southern Cross, and why is this the right team to advance this project to development?
We've got a great team. There's no doubt about it. We've brought some experience in from Fosterville. So our exploration manager spent many years at Fosterville, and another mine in the district at Costerfield. His name's Kenny Bush. But Lisa Gibbons, ex-Newmont, who's our general manager. The board's set up with a lot of trusted people that have done well in the business over the last few years. But really, a key part of this is the shareholder base. Okay, so we're going through a corporate restructure that we'll talk about in a minute, but we'll be when that's complete, we'll be over 50% institutional, high net worth. There's some very key people behind the project. Our very large shareholders, a guy called Darren Morecambe, who's done this multiple times in his career, and he saw this discovery early and really backed it. He works very closely with Pierre Lasson, probably the best known and the best value investor in our gold space. So they form part of our major investors, along with some of the key institutions globally, both through Europe, Australia, and the US.
Okay, well, a lot of good stakeholders there. Let's talk about this restructuring, the agreement with Mawson. Walk us through those agreements you're going to spin out on the TSXV. You were telling me previously, it sounds like it's complicated. sequence of affairs, maybe break down what are you trying to get out of it? What does it mean for investors?
Yeah, so we spun the assets out of Mawson just over 2 years ago and made this discovery in a company that we founded on the ASX those 2 years ago. Mawson was the major shareholder and today owns 48.7% Southern Cross. And that funky ownership was never meant to be for the long term. The Mawson shares of Southern Cross shares that were in Mawson were escrowed for 2 years. They came out of escrow a few months ago.
Okay.
So we've looked to consolidate that ownership into one structure. So that's number one. And number two is that we want to be dual listed. So we've got the listing on the ASX, but this is a great Canadian story. But some of the best Canadian investors in the story. Fosterville has been owned by Canadian companies, is owned by Agnico today. The Canadian market loves high-grade gold in Victoria. So the way we're doing that is through a merge, at a scheme of arrangement, and Mawson and Southern Cross will merge. Mawson will retain its Toronto venture listing. It will acquire Southern Cross. The next day after that happens, Mawson will relist in Australia as a secondary listing. The company will be called Southern Cross Gold Consolidated. The board of Southern Cross will be running Southern Cross Gold Consolidated. I've got the same management team, and it will be the same capital structure of Southern Cross. There's no new shares being issued. So for a Southern Cross shareholder, it would be business as usual, essentially, but with a consolidation or removal of that perceived major shareholder overhang.
Okay, no, it makes sense. Interesting development there, and I guess just cleaning things up a little.
Bringing a lot more eyes to the stock. There's certainly a lot of institutional buyers who are waiting for that to happen. So that's a value creation step we see.
Okay, no, very interesting. I guess looking, down the line here, what's your vision for Southern Cross? 6 months, 12 months, 5 years ahead. Where do you see the company going?
Well, certainly over the next year, we've got that 60 kilometres and we're very focused to try and get to that 3 million ounces at 10 grams. That would put us at, on your hand, one of the largest, highest grade deposits. Yeah, that's where we're trying to head this. Now, that is not limited. That's only 10% of the strike of the 10 kilometres that we have, and it's down to 1 kilometre depth from surface, and it's got a very high likelihood to double. So this is going to become a much bigger system. So over the next 5 years, our aim is to create one of the highest margin gold projects on earth at 10 grams per tonne. You've got an extremely high value set. Today it's around $1,350 a tonne. So in situ value of that, and I'm not going to put economics around it on an interview like this, but it's going to create potentially a lot of free cash flow if we're successful in creating the scale and getting this into production over that time frame.
Fantastic. Well, highest margin gold business globally is certainly a lofty aim, but it seems like you're well on your way to achieving it. Michael, thanks so much for joining us today.
James, a pleasure.